Unbelievable. Mine are still kind of a little bit ghetto. Hey, everybody. This is Rob Thompson Live. I got John Dargenio, AD at Siena College. John, thanks for joining us this morning and dressing up. Of course, I dress like a 12-year-old every day, so I appreciate your professionalism.
It's great to be with you, and it's great to be with your audience.
Well, like we kind of prepped on this call. Anything you could do to give us some insight on your life, your career, what your challenges are, and what you face every day. You and I have been friends for a very long time, so this is just an easy conversation for us to have and be honest about it. This is not something I'm gonna, it's going to be held against you in a court of law. So you're clear. So why don't you just talk a little bit about your background? How did you get started in the business, and what ultimately led you to Siena?
Rob, my background's probably not much different than a lot of people that are in college athletics and athletics in general. I think obviously it starts with a love of sports, and it starts with when you're a child participating in sports, and then you go to organized sports into high school, and then the vast majority of us realize that we're not good enough to move off that high school stage. And a vast majority of us, like me, weren't even really good enough to play on the high school stage. But it's something you're involved in because it builds character, it helps you organize yourself. But you realize that you want athletics to continue to be part of your life and not just being the weekend warrior, not just working out during the week, but how do I make my living off of this? And then you get into your college education, which there's so many opportunities nowadays for young people to really expand their college education in sports. In my generation and your generation, you really did it through volunteering. Whether you were in college and you did internships, whether you came home for the summer and worked, and when you went on to graduate school. And that was kind of the path I followed. I went to the University of Dayton, majoring in communications, because at that time, there weren't a lot of opportunities in administration and athletics. It was 1982. Athletics was just starting to grow, actually, as an industry. So if you wanted to stay in sports and you couldn't play and you didn't want to coach, you wanted to be in broadcasting. What better way was there than to call a game? Then you quickly realize how difficult that is, and that doesn't mean you're just going to be on Monday Night Football. You're actually going to be selling 30-second commercials in some town in upstate New York and calling some local high school team, which is great. But I chose to go another route. I went to graduate school at North Dakota State University because I had an opportunity to work in their sports information office as the assistant SID. And then you use that opportunity really to work, to grow your network, and to get to that next opportunity, which fortunately for me was the job as the sports information director at Siena College. And over time, I've been here 30 years altogether. I was sports information director for 6 or 7 years. I was the acting athletic director for an academic year. Then I had the opportunity to be given the position of director of athletics, and I've been doing that ever since. I've been recently named vice president and director of athletics, so that's been a nice opportunity for me to contribute to the college as a whole. But I think getting back to your original question, how do you get into college athletics? It's being involved. I get a lot of students that come up to me their senior year, a week before graduation, and say, hey, I want to work in sports, in college sports. I said, well, that's great. Did you work for us during the year? Yeah, no, I really didn't. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So if it's something that you think you want to do, be involved right away. Volunteer, because there's a lot of people that want to get into this business. So it's a matter of supply and demand. If you're willing to be there, if you're willing to put in some time, if you're willing to do jobs outside of what looks good and what is sexy, I think there's a place for you in the business.
When you look at these kids that come in the intern, they work in, they work on campus with you, and you look at them in 3 different areas. Who are the kids that could sell and pick up a phone and sell tickets and sponsorships? Or who are the kids that are just administrators, good planners, good spreadsheet makers, or who are those kids that are really good on site? The kids that are going to grind it out, going to be there at 5 a.m., set up tables and chairs with a smile on their face. Which areas of kids do you find most valuable?
Well, that's a great question, because you're right. The big thing now in sports and college athletics is selling, whether it's sponsorships or ticket sales. But there's this whole world behind the scenes, as you mentioned, setting up tables, grinding it out, knowing what goes in to putting an event on. And I mean, I think all those skills are valuable, but when you get into the behind the scenes work, whether it's facilities, communications, sports medicine, I think those are so valuable because you learn it from the ground up. It's that old adage, if you want to run the company, you start in the mailroom, right? So you learn
Right.
everything about the industry. And you can become a salesperson. I think people can become good salespeople if they're passionate about their product. And if somebody's worked in the events end of things, let's say, setting up the basketball game, setting up the soccer game, and they're passionate about it and they get that opportunity to sell a ticket or a sponsorship, I think they'll be able to do that again because they have that deep passion for athletics. But the more you learn about the sport and the industry from the grassroots in the beginning, I think the better off you're going to be.
Do you have, I mean, it's always like when you go to these coaches conventions or these athletic director conventions and everybody walks around with their golf shirts on with the name of their college, you know, it always seems like you tell people at what level they are, you know, whether, you know, they're a big shot because they wear sports coats and they don't want anybody to know what school they're at because they're not, you know, trying to get a job. But do you find that these conferences are a valuable place for, you know, graduate students or students that want to be in the business to attend?
They are, because there's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
You know, you need to go where the people are going to be.
Hmm.
I think one of the things, maybe the mistake that some people make when they go there, and it's prevalent in today's society, no matter what you do, they want to talk to the person at the top right away.
Hmm.
If they're an events person or a salesperson, instead of seeking out the assistant AD for marketing or sales or the assistant AD for event planning, they want to go right to the athletic director. In a lot of ways, the athletic director is really going to give that autonomy to the people that work for him or her to make those decisions. So
Hmm.
you really need to work it, I think, from, I'll say, the bottom up, and not a disrespectful way, in a very respectful way.
Hmm.
You need to work it from the bottom up when you go to those type of things. You need to get in front of the marketing director, the assistant AD for communications, the assistant AD for operations, because those are the people that are running the day to day. Those are the people that are actually hiring people and making those decisions. So, you know, take the time to get to meet those people, and don't be discouraged because there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of people that are trying to do the same thing, and I think it's just about perseverance and trying to always be in front of somebody.
Yeah, very great points. Work up from the bottom. I look at it the same way. I have a hard time hiring someone right off the street or even if they come from a good organization, because at the end of the day, you never know really about that person. And in this industry, there's just so many candidates out there and people that want like, high level, smart kids, you know, and hard workers. So, putting them into, you never could tell somebody until they work an event, you know,
Right. That's
or
right.
whether they have an angry fan or an angry client or an angry season ticket holder and how they deal with them. Those keys are, and those staff are just so valuable to hold on to and try to grow and develop. But
Great
so
points.
that's
You know, it's not about the game, right? What we do in our business, it's about the game because that's the end product. But when you're working and you're at an event, it's not about the game or watching the game. It's about taking care of everything that goes around it. And as
Mhm.
you well know, having run organizations, having run events, the end product is what you're putting out there for the students or the professionals, depending on what level you're at, and the fans.
Mhm.
If as an event organizer, if as a salesperson, a corporate person, if you have time to tell me all the great plays that happened in a game,
Mhm.
or you probably didn't do your job during that event because you were
Mhm.
watching it instead of developing it, nurturing it, making sure everything was running well.
No, well, maybe that was my problem. Maybe I was the noisy guy in the press box yelling at the players.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about your challenges on what you face, because it's all relative. Whether you're sitting at Dayton or you're sitting at Ohio State or Siena College, there's just some more zeros sometimes on budgets, but the challenges you're facing are relative to what everybody faces in this space. So, could you just give us your point of view and your day-to-day things that you face.
Well, you're absolutely right. Everybody has the same challenges, just everything is relative. My challenge over meeting cost of attendance for basketball players, which is a total bill of for us probably between $50,000 and $60,000, is significant to us because at our level, that's a lot of money. In some ways, that's a staff position.
Mhm.
The Power Five level, that's nothing. That's something that they're going to get done for a particular sport, overnight. They wake up in the morning and that kind of loose change falls out of their pocket. So it's not an issue for them. But we all still have the same issues because now you take that issue for them and spread it across 600 athletes, spread it across 20 sports, as opposed to what we try to do and spread that challenge of cost of attendance over 30 athletes. But we still are solving the same problem. It's scope and magnitude that's different. The challenges, I think, in intercollegiate athletics definitely are finding the balance between what we want to promote and using especially at the Division I level, using our marquee sports as marketing opportunities for the college, and what is that student athlete experience? What is that academic experience? Making sure it's still grounded to the overall mission of the institution. I think that's the balance we all really face. At the highest level, there's great commercialism. There's no doubt people make a lot of money, but I still think even at those levels, people that run those organizations really believe in the higher education model, really believe that athletics contributes to the development of young people socially, athletically, and academically, and contributes to the institution. So that's the balance. How do you magnify, or how do you maximize and leverage what you have commercially to benefit the institution without losing the ideals and the values of higher education? So we all fight that. We all fight it on different levels. Certainly we have financial challenges just like the Ohio States of the world do, the Syracuses of the world do, just at different levels. We look for revenue streams that are going to kind of bring us extra thousands of dollars, and they're looking for revenue streams that are going to bring them extra millions of dollars.
It's all in the zeros, isn't it? It's all in the zeros.
Exactly like you said, it's all in the zeros.
So let's just segue right over to it. So what's your point of view? And I know for years you didn't outsource your media rights. Is that something you're looking to do, you're currently doing? And what's your position on it? What do you think about it from your perspective?
Well, that's something we actually are doing. We actively over the last 4 or 5 months have gone out with an RFP, a request for proposal. We did active interviews on campus. Myself, I included our vice president for development, our vice president for finance and administration, to bring organizations in to educate us as to how they can help us. We didn't for a number of years because I felt that we had a great opportunity to grow that program from within and take it from a couple $1,000s back in the mid 90s to over $500,000 today. And we had a lot of room to run. And I kind of liken it right now, we're somewhat in that category of a mature business. We're not a growth company in that any longer. So I felt, and we felt as a college, we needed that outside expertise to come in and say, okay, you guys have done a great job really picking off all this low-hanging fruit. You dug into the apple tree a little bit and got that apple that's stuck up there, but there's a lot more to go. You can find a lot more apples higher up in the tree, but you need to put a more professional sales organization around it. So that's why we chose or are choosing to go in that direction of outsourcing that. We have a great person in Tim Farrell who shepherded that for us over the last 5 or 6 years. A lot of people came before him to build the base. And Tim will still be a part of that because he has the local connections. But and I can't say the company's name because we haven't announced it yet, but with this company coming in, they're going to help build an organization around Tim that's going to support Tim and give him that sales structure that I just can't. So I think it really depends on where you're at with your organization. At the highest levels, for them, it was easy to outsource because the big companies, the IMGs of the world, the Learfields came in and gave them a check and say, here's millions of dollars. We want all your rights. And so that took it off their plate and it was easy to do. But it's funny. It seems like, I don't want to say we're going against the grain a little bit, but it seems like when everybody was outsourcing, we were insourcing and running the program. Now more people are thinking about, hey, do we bring this back in-house And we're saying, no, hey, is the time for us to outsource it. So, maybe the timing is right because maybe people need a little more business and the deals will be a little more friendly.
Yeah, well, everybody's different, right? Every situation's different. It's interesting when you bring someone in like that and you kind of open up your world to them.
Yep.
I know it's protective because you're proud of what you have accomplished over the years, and when they give you a different perspective, did you find that, hey, man, I didn't even think of that inventory that they opened up that maybe they did at another school? Did you find a lot of those kind of light bulb aha moments?
We found some through the process, and I know there's going to be a lot more once they get here and hit the ground running.
Mhm.
But just for these folks to bring their wealth of expertise and say, hey, this is something we did at school X that's in the Big East. We can downsize that a little bit and do it for you guys. I think there are some aha moments. I think there's going to be a lot more as well. One of them being, and we all kind of knew this in the back of our head, is let's just not package this as athletics. You got a lot of markets across your campus. It's your students, it's your alumni, it's your on-campus employees, it's your potential students. Let's bring that all together and let's form something that's going to help the entire college, not just athletics. And while a lot of us in athletics knew that, understood it, it was in the back of our minds, and some of us in administration did, when an expert comes to your campus and says that, it really resonates. And it is that aha moment that, yeah, they did it down the road, so we can do this as well. So it's going to be interesting. We're really looking forward to it. And, I think whenever you can expand your circle and bring people in to show you different ways to run your operation, it's beneficial. It was hard. And I told these folks this as we were going through the negotiation piece. I said, you have to remember, we built this program up to, I think when I became athletic director, they were selling a couple $1,000 sponsorship, and that basically went to print schedule cards. Different era, obviously, but we've built this up to this property that has great value. I think we've raised the sites in the capital region by how we valued it. And you're asking us to kind of turn this over to you. It's a big stretch analogy, but it's almost as if, okay, you've raised your child through adolescence, through being a child, through kindergarten, through elementary school, high school. Now we're going off to college, and you're handing them off to somebody. And that's kind of how we look at it, because there's a lot of great relationships here, and we really need to be careful with how they continue.
Yeah, John, great points. I mean, everything, that perspective is unique in how you just said it, and thanks for being really transparent about that, because I think a lot of people just hold that to the chest, and as far as an ego plays into it. That everybody thinks when you've been in the business for so long that the only way to do it because you've been successful one way. And I commend you for opening up your eyes, not just eyes, but your I don't know. It's you opened up to figure out another way. Once you hit a certain plateau, you've built the reputation of Siena basketball and Siena sports, and it just not only just in this marketplace but nationally. And it all starts from the top. Whether it's from the ability to bring in good coaches, retain good coaches, bring in good players, provide them with a great experience. Move your games from the campus over to the Times Union Arena. I don't know how many years ago that was, and provide entertainment value for the community. But the respect level of, hey, if Siena gets into conference, it's not an automatic. If they get into the Sweet 16, the March Madness, it's not a guarantee that you're gonna be able to beat them. And so I think everything that you have accomplished here to raise the bar, that know that these mid-level Division I schools, there is a business there. There is an opportunity for kids to play at a big level there. You could go into a market the size of Albany, New York, which is buried, in a DMA, and make a business out of it and drive revenue and provide this for folks. So I know that it's not easy, and I think everybody listening to this that are in college athletics know it's not easy either. And to be able to continue and be persistent over 30 years is incredibly commendable, because it's unheard of, I think, especially in the sports industry, for anybody to be at one place for more than 10 years, let alone 30. So either you're a glutton for punishment or you manage up really well.
And I think there's a lot of luck involved, a lot of
Yeah.
good people that have worked here, and it's a great experience. I think because what we're able to do is operate our teams at a high level. You know what? We make no illusions. We're not competing with the Big Ten or the Pac-10, although on any given day in any given sport we can, and that's what's great about it because we take the time to build our programs, and I think we do it the right way. I think we bring in, for the most part, students who want to be here and graduate. We've made some mistakes in all our sports across the board, like anybody does, but we've erred by giving people an opportunity and tried to get them to accept accountability and responsibility for that opportunity. The vast majority of them do, as spoken by our graduation rate. Some of them don't. But again, it's about that relationship that you build. You bring them here, you tell them, yes, this is Albany, New York. It's a great town. It's a great market. It's not as big as New York City. It's not like Boston. You know, you don't get the adulation that you might if you're playing down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But you know what? At the end of the day, the people respect our program. And when you look at basketball, it's had a history and tradition here since the 50s when they played in the Washington Avenue Armory downtown. So when you talk about the move to the Times Union Center, it was a big move for us. But at the end of the day, when you study the history of Siena College, it was where the program started. It started downtown. It had a lot of its big wins in the Armory when teams like Oklahoma State would take their East Coast barnstorming tours. You know, we played the Seton Halls of the world down there. So going down to the then Knickerbocker Arena was the right move at the right time. Fortunately, I was young enough in my career to not understand and worry about the risks involved. Because, right? Because when you're younger, it's like, oh, what's a risk? You know, you just
Right.
jump in and take it. You know, I hope I would make that same decision now, even though I have a little more experience, and
Yeah.
hopefully have the fortitude to jump in and say, yeah, it's a little bit of a risk, but it's the
Yeah.
right risk to take.
Yeah. Well, you're a risk taker there, coach.
Obviously, because I'm on this show with you.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. The three people that will be watching. So, so anyway, so this is a question I ask people a lot, and I think about it too. Is, you know, if you weren't doing this, you know, what is your passion? You know, it's like sometimes you sit out when you're on vacation. You're like, man, if I could figure out a job, how I could get paid to go out to dinner, write about the dinner, and then write about my experience. And if someone will pay me to do that, that'll be a great career. You know, not that I want to do that, but what is that career for you? If you weren't doing this, where's your passion outside of athletics?
You know what? That's a great question. And when you told me that was going to be one of the questions, I really had to think about it long and hard because I've only wanted to be in athletics. I've only been in athletics in terms of working. You know, I used to joke with one of our former women's basketball coaches, who's now the head coach at the University of Dayton, that you know at some point we're gonna open up a hot dog stand and call it Frank's for the Memories, and that's what we're gonna do. You know, we're going to go out and do that. And the other thing, I used to go on vacation with some buddies when I was younger all the time to Myrtle Beach, and they on the beach they would push around the lemonade Slurpee stand, and I said that's what we're going to do. And
Right.
so I think at some point it's about a service. What's that
Yeah.
service that we can bring to people that people are going to enjoy? And I don't know what that would be if
Yeah.
I got fired tomorrow or if I didn't have this job tomorrow. I really don't know what I would do other than I know it would be involved in service and bringing something to people, whether it's through a nonprofit that gives people an opportunity to improve their lives, or whether it's simply selling a hot dog to somebody down at the Empire State Plaza. But you know, it has to involve people because it's about relationships. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you know, that's what's a little infomercial here, and that's what's so valuable about a liberal arts college. I mean, you can go places and get an engineering degree, and you can come to Siena and get a business degree and be a biology major, but you're going to get that great underpinning of liberal arts and the humanities, and that's what's going to make the difference between you and somebody that doesn't have that. If you can go out, whether you're a scientist or an accountant, at some point you got to relate to people. And if you can't relate to people, you're not going to be very successful for a long term of your career. Or if you are, you're not going to have a lot of relationships outside of it. So, you know, when I think about what I would do, it's not one thing. You know, it's about what's that opportunity to bring some service to people.
Yeah.
I'd like to write a book too someday, but maybe that'll come.
No, that's a great one. You definitely need to write a book. Yeah. And make sure you put pictures in there of Gary Holly with the tight shorts doing layups too.
Yeah.
So,
Throw a few AF2 football league photos in there too, right?
oh, we've burned those. We've burned those. So, well, John, thank you so much for your time. This is great. I really enjoyed talking to you. I mean, a lot of this stuff I didn't know, about you and some of the things that, we never got really deep into these questions before. So there's only so much you could share over eggs in the morning, right? So,
Well, we
this
got
is
to do
really,
that again soon because it's always good to do that. And you talk about a message to people, expanding what you do. It's not always about learning from people who are in college sports. For me, it's learning from people like you who are involved in athletics through a different avenue. It's about learning through other people and other businesses. It's about reading that book about somebody who built a private company or somebody that delivers through a nonprofit. You don't always have to learn from people that look like you, talk like you, and have the same type of job as you. In fact, sometimes you don't learn as much from them because you all think you know each other better and you all think you're smarter than each other. So it's when they tell you, "Hey, this is what we do," it's like, "Well, let me tell you what we did."
right. Yeah, it becomes a tit for tat. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about that. And you always respect people that are, that could grind it out, that could figure out any business. And certainly with you being there for 30 years and just, I still think it's incredible, because I just know how hard
Thanks.
it is. And going through different presidents and different administrations and taking chances like you've done, moving teams, not knowing whether it's going to be successful or not, figuring, well, let the other guy worry about it, not knowing that you're still going to be the other guy.
Yeah, that's right.
So John, you're a true friend and a true professional, and you have a tremendous amount of fans and respect from people in this industry. Certainly in this community, you've built a name for yourself and a reputation and a brand that's a model for anybody who wants to be in this business. And sponsors, season ticket holders, you got a lot of fans out there, buddy, and I'm one of them. So thanks for your
Rob.
time.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, brother.
Take care.
Oh, the bell's ringing. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.